What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me, where today we're going to create this sinking planet design. Now as always, there's links to everything you're going to need in the description down below, the canvas size, as well as an image that holds all the colours in them. There'll also be a video underneath that if you're new to this app and you want to learn how to add in palettes. Once you've grabbed everything, we can get started with today's design. As always, please be sure to share your designs with me over on Instagram. There's a link to my socials down there, as well as hit subscribe for weekly tutorials. So with all that said, let's get started. So let's get started by creating our canvas. So the size for today's canvas is going to be 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels. So once you've entered that in, we will go through to our canvas. So once we hit create, the next step is to add in the colors. Now I've already added my colors in here and saved them up here. So you're going to need this palette of colors that I've added a link to in the description down below, so you'll be able to grab that. And once you've grabbed the colors, we've got everything we need for today's tutorial. So the first thing that we'll do is add in our little bit of the sea level at the bottom here. So we're going to go to our brush. We're going to go to the option of calligraphy and the monoline brush. The brush size doesn't really matter, but the brush color does. So we'll tap on the color here, and we're going to go ahead and grab this color here on the far right of the palette, the darkest tone there. And you can see the hex code there at any time if you need to reference the image of the palette that I've provided. Then what we're going to do is draw in the ocean level. Now this is just going to be under halfway. So we're going to draw in a straight line across, hold your pen down, and you'll manage a straight line across. Then we'll go up to our create options and go to the fill tool. And then we'll just tap in this bottom area here to fill it in. Once you've done that, hit the tick and we've got our sea level. Next what we'll do is we'll create a new layer. We'll drag it underneath our little sea layer there. We're then going to go ahead and go to our fill tool again. So the create option and fill, and tap on the top area. So you'll have filled the whole layer in with that color. We're just building up the shapes that we need. Then the next step is to go ahead and draw in our circle. So we're going to create a new layer. We're going to change our color for a second. Let's just grab white. I've added it at the very start of the palette, so you can just grab white. It doesn't really matter what color you grab, by the way. And then we're going to go up to our create options and the circle option. And because we've still got the monoline brush, we can draw in a circle and we'll get a nice solid outline. And size wise, let's go for something around about this and drag it in towards the center of the canvas. So in the middle, width wise at least, just to make sure we hit sort of a middle point. And then we're going to go back to our create option and the fill tool. And once we select that, we can tap in the middle of the circle to fill it in. That's going to be our planet. Now to give the planet its really cool little effect, we're going to go ahead and create a new layer, and let's just drag it to the very top for a moment. We're going to go ahead and hit the tick box there just to get rid of the fill option. We're going to change our color, and we're going to grab the first color here in the palette. We're then going to go back to our create tools and the fill option and fill this entire layer blue. Now this is where we're going to go ahead and create the pattern that's going to sit on the planet. And it's really easy to do. It's completely random, so don't spend too much time meticulously trying to make something. To start with, we're just going to splash on a bunch of color. So once we've hit the tick here to fill in that layer, we're going to go ahead and change our brush. We're going to go to the options of sprayers, and we're going to scroll down until we get to the soft airbrush. Once you grab that, your size doesn't really matter too much. I'm going to make it though around about sort of that 200 to 300 mark. And our color, we want to start to make our way across these colors here. So I'm going to move to the little sort of more turquoise color that we've got in the palette. Again, you can see the hex code there just in case. And I'm going to make sure I tap on the circle because we're done with it, so that I can freely just draw in some random flakes of color. So we're just going to literally just randomly flake all them onto the screen, little dashes here and there. Then switch your color and move to the next color. So that is that option there. And then we're just going to add in some of this in some of the gaps. Try not to go over the top of your other colors too much unless you want to. Adding in some up here. Make sure we go all the way to the edge of the canvas. Let's move our layers out of the way. Let's move to the next color, slightly darker blue. Introduce this one in here. This is going to allow us to get some nice variation on the planet's surface. So just some nice little random splodges here and there. You can put little dots if you want to. They don't have to be little curves. Let's move to the purple color and start to drop some of this in. This will give us some more nice contrast in our planet. Something like this. I'm then going to go to the darkest tone, so the far right colour, and drop in some of this colour on top. Now I'm going to be very sparing with this, I don't want to add in too much, but just enough so we've got some nice contrast between all the gaps. So a few little splotches like this. And then the final step is just to add in some white. So I've got white in the palette at the beginning, so you want to grab white. And I'm going to maybe make the brush size a little bit smaller, just so I don't add too much. And just little random little flakes of white in here will look really nice, almost like clouds on the planet. So some nice little sort of random dashes in here. And if you've added in too much colour on top of what was the original colour, just go back to this one here and just add in some of that original colour if you need to. But that's all you need to do, and this is the fun part. We're going to use the liquify tool. So we're going to go up to our create options. We're going to go ahead and move across to the edit tab, and we're going to go to liquify. Now you want to use a mix between the two swirl options here. So we're going to grab the first swirl option. This is your brush size, so this is how much surface area you're affecting at one stage. And all you're going to want to do is just sort of hold down and just move across your canvas left to right a couple of times, just to get the first sort of little bit of a blend going on between all the different colours. And look how fun that is. It's just going to merge and twist and twirl all those colours into one another. A little something like this, and that's kind of like your first starting point. Maybe make the brush a bit bigger and then just go even slower this time, and then let all those lines just twirl and curl, create some nice spirals in there. Really nice little shapes. And this is where you can spend a little bit of time if you want to, you know, creating the landscape that you like the look of. But switch between the twirl left and twirl right, so we can just go in here now and move them around again in a slightly different way, creating some more fun twirls in here and have some fun with it. So if you feel like you need to, you could undo this and go all the way back and add in more colour if you feel that that is necessary. But have some fun pushing them around. You can go up and down if you want to. You can go just side to side. It's totally up to you. And we can just push all of that across, have some fun, and see what sort of designs we end up with. So I'm going to leave mine like that. That looks really cool. We've got a nice variety of very small twirls and some nice big ones at the top. So once you're done, just hit the tick here. Then what we're going to do is drag that layer down until it's above our circle. So if we take a look at our layers now, if I move that out, we've got the ocean layer at the bottom here, followed by our nice big pattern, the circle underneath, and the background. We're going to tap on our little design here, tap on it and use the option of clip. So it's now going to clip itself to the shape that it's clipped to, which is the circle. We can then go up to our create options. We're going to go to edit, and we're going to go ahead and use the basic transform tool. And we're just going to go ahead and just scale this down in size until it pretty much fills up your entire little sort of planet space there. So have a mess around which area you want to keep. You could make it really large and see what area you want to keep. But I'm going to make mine nice and small, so it pretty much fills up the whole circle until we get something a bit like this. And I'm going to hit the tick when I'm done. So your planet is already coming to life a little bit more. Let's add some shading to it. Let's go ahead and create a new layer. It will automatically clip itself down. We're going to go ahead and go to our colors. We're going to go ahead and grab the dark tone on the far right of the palette. And we're going to make sure our brush is still set to the soft airbrush under sprayers. Now, the brush size doesn't really matter too much, but I've got mine around about that 330 mark. And I'm just going to darken up the bottom right hand side here. So just sort of bringing that round a little bit on the top, but trying to darken up the bottom corner. And then a bit of a shadow on the top edge as well. So just creating that nice sphere look, leaving a nice bright source here on the front. Then what we can do is go ahead and create another new layer. We're going to go ahead and on this layer, change our color. We're going to change it to white, and we're going to do the opposite. We're going to add in a highlight here, so really nice and light with your pressure, and then a little bit of an edge highlight around this bottom right side, just a tiny bit where the light's making its way around. And what we're going to do is then tap on the layer, and you'll get a few different options for it. We're going to tap up here. This is the blend mode. We're going to change it from normal, and we're going to change it to overlay. That will just make it sort of fit in a little bit more with the color scheme a little bit better. And there we go. We've got our nice planet with all its shading on. And then once you're happy with your planet, you're going to want to go ahead and pinch all 4 layers together, so the circle and the 2 layers above, and that will group it all together. We then want to tap on the group, and we want to go ahead and create a copy merged option. So what it's going to do is it's going to use everything in that group and merge it onto one layer for us. And we're going to drag that underneath the group above. So that now we can go up to our create options and we're going to go to edit. We're going to go ahead and use the filter here. And we're going to scroll down until we get the option here of blur. Once we tap on blur, we can then swipe from left to right, adding in a nice big blur. And we're going to go up to 80% here at the bottom. Hit the tick when you're done and your planet now has a bit of a glow in behind it. What we're then also going to go ahead and do is create another new layer and drag it underneath your little glow there. We're then going to go ahead and go to our colors. We're going to go ahead and grab this color here. So you can see the code again, the 4th color for me, this one there. And again, still using the soft airbrush as our brush size. It needs to be a little bit bigger, about 430 maybe. We're just going to go from left to right across our little horizon line here, getting really thin towards the right hand side. So you don't want to add in too much glow towards the edges, just a little bit of a glow in the middle here, and just sort of pushing that slightly higher as you can towards the center. You could even go ahead and tap on your color, maybe switch it out to this color here and make your brush size a little bit smaller, maybe around that 300 mark, and just in here, just sort of brighten that up a tiny bit more, just in behind the planet on our horizon line. Leave those edges nice and faint. And then the final step for the background up here is to add in some stars. So we'll go ahead, we'll create a new layer. We'll change our color. We'll change it to white. We'll go up to our brush and we're going to go to one of my favorites, which is in sprayers, which is the splatter. Now be careful with this one. You don't want to splatter too much, otherwise you're going to end up really going crazy like this. That's not what we want to do. So we'll tap with 2 fingers to undo that. The brush size is going to be pretty much maxed out at 228. And all I'm going to do is just tap around the screen a few times. So let's move my layers out of the way so you can see. I'm tapping and just seeing what I can just drop onto the screen. Some nice splattering of stars in the sky there. Nice and random. Just so that we don't end up creating like patterns essentially. Because if you draw them in one by one, you'll probably create some patterns up there. So some nice sort of random stars in the sky there. And just break that up on the left hand side. And a couple more there. Now once you're happy with your star set, what we're going to want to go ahead and do is bring our layers back out. Everything underneath this layer here at the top, which is our little ocean layer, everything underneath we're going to pinch all together. So we're going to pinch all of them and it will group the whole thing together. So if we open that group by clicking on the little folder icon, everything here is still organized, but it's all in one. And then we can tap on that group again and go to the option of copy merged. That will give us one layer with everything in that group on. We're going to drag that above the sea layer at the top. Then tap on the layer and clip it to the sea. You won't see any visual change, but if we go up to our create options, we go to edit and we go to transform basic. We're going to go ahead and rotate this using this icon here. So we're going to tap this once, twice, 3 times and 4 times. Now that obviously doesn't reflect perfectly, so we just use the icon beside it to flip it horizontally. And then we're going to go ahead and move this planet down until these 2 corners match up nicely and match up to one another, till you get something like this, and then hit the tick when you're done. And now that is our reflection underneath. But what we also want to go ahead and do is make this look like water. So the easiest way to do that is if we go to our smudge tool over here and we tap on the smudge tool, go into your paint option, and we're going to go ahead and use the dry brush. The brush size is going to be set to 179 to start with, and all we're going to do is just push horizontally across and smudge from left to right. So we're going to bring in some of the darker tones by pushing across, and we can bring that into the reflection. You can also push the highlights out as well and push them outwards into the darker area. So you kind of want to go crisscross, backwards and forwards, blending in some of that reflection. Don't be afraid as well to smudge out some of your stars. You don't want them as a perfect reflection. So get into these corners as well and break up some of your stars. You don't want them to be perfect little dots. And just push in from the sides. You can go all the way up pretty much to the sort of very right up to the edge there. You can then even tap on your brush, make it as big as you can go, up to 250, and add in some bigger smudges here at the bottom. And just push in from side to side till you get a really beautiful reflection. And I'm going to continue to bring in some of the darker tones to really break up our reflection, just so that it's not quite so bright. And as it gets really close to you, try to lose as much of the planet as possible. So right down here, I'm going to really push in some colour just to really break that up, because all the details will be lost. It would be most reflective pretty much over there. And then this is totally optional. If you want to, you can tap on the layer and lower its opacity down. If you dropped it to say about 85%, you'll end up creating a little bit of a more horizon line in the background there and separating the two from one another. And then you can tap away. We can pinch with 2 fingers to go full screen, and we can tap with 4 to get rid of everything. And there we go. That is the end of today's tutorial. Super simple sort of planet design that's sort of melting into the sea here. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. As always, be sure to share your designs with me over on Instagram. There's a link to my Instagram in the description down below. And if you're interested in weekly tutorials like this, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be posting weekly tutorials on this Joel Designs channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and help us grow the channel. And if you're interested in today's equipment list, today's equipment is the Sketchboard Pro, as always, which you can always use code JOELCREATE, which is my main channel code, to get yourself a nice 10% off. I'm using the Pen Matt screen cover and also the upper grip and the Doudrop glove.